The only reasons that an aircraft goes missing without a trace are that it can disappear very quickly off radar and radio contact because this aircraft was out over the ocean, and radar and radio only work with what's called line of sight, and the Earth is curved. So once the aircraft has descended at significant vertical height, then the radar distance that it can see over is reduced considerably. So if the aircraft has descended with something like a pressurization problem from its 35,000 feet down to, say, 10,000 feet where the passengers can breathe normally, then the radar range is reduced very significantly. So any descent out over the ocean could well bring it out of radio and radar contact from air traffic control. What then happens is you would have expected the pilots to have made a transmission that would have been picked up by the air traffic control authorities on the way down, but if they've descended very, very quickly, then they may well be out of coverage. Now, in this case, you would, if you're looking for the aircraft, you would start to analyse the radar tapes to see the last known position, the heading, whether it was in a turn. But one of the problems you have over international waters is trying to get hold of all the different radar tapes from the different countries that may have radar scattered around this particular sea, and any military ships like frigates that would be tracking aircraft that went overhead. So it's a considerable coordination effort to get all these radar tapes and get them in a form that are readable by a single coordinated authority. There are two basic types of radar, one of which is the classical World War II reflected energy radar, where you send a large amount of energy as a beam out to the aircraft. It bounces back and you catch that beam. And aircraft can't disappear from that, but they can be made stealthy. So the stealth fighters disperse the radar energy so that not enough energy gets back to the ground that it can be detected. But a normal civil airliner makes quite a large radar imprint, so anything that's blasted from the ground would reflect off the aircraft and be caught back again on the ground. It only tells you how far away it is and the angle from, say, north, the bearing, but it doesn't tell you necessarily any other information. It doesn't tell you which aircraft it is. So to help air traffic control, there's a second radar, and this sends a smaller signal to the aircraft, and the aircraft catches that signal and it interrogates a box in the aircraft, and the aircraft then broadcasts its own little radar message back again, and it says, "Hello, I am this aircraft." The only way that a hijacker could take an aircraft off the radar screen is by cutting the electrical supply or switching off the secondary radar transponders on the aeroplane, but you can't hide from primary radar. The tracking systems that they have to try and find the wreckage on the way down, you would normally expect the emergency location beacon to emit a signal as soon as the aircraft hits solid ground. Now, if it crashes into the ocean, that gives you another problem, that this signal, if it's transmitting, may not break through the ocean surface, and so you can't use the satellite tracking system, which would normally give you an answer within 2 hours anywhere at the sort of British latitudes, but it would give you, when you're much closer to the equator, it would give you an answer within about 48 minutes as to where the aircraft was, and down to a resolution of a couple of square miles or so. So we have to search for the wreckage under the sea. And to help us do that, we have some beacons on board the black boxes, the data recorders, and those transmit for a minimum of 30 days. If the sea temperature is reasonably warm, you'd hope to get a little longer out of the battery life than that. So the search effort is now going to be focused on listening for those pings that come out from the black boxes if the aircraft is underwater. And you've got another 4 weeks to run before you then have to go to a more complicated system, which is a little bit like you would see on a discovery program of searching for a shipwreck somewhere, where you actually have to start mapping the ocean floor, looking for things that could be wreckage at that point.